Hello and welcome back to First Impressions. This is a show where my co-host Dash Hooper and I look at a new album each week with a few simple ground rules. First, it must be an album we've never heard before. Second, we're only allowed to play it once. After that, we take notes and rate it in a variety of categories. The album we're going to be looking at this week is Heave Yer Skeleton, the 2009 album by Mr. Gnome. So Dash, how are you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful as always.
That is good to hear. How's the weather
Enjoying
out there
the.
for you guys?
Let's see. It's colder here than it is in Alaska, I think. So
Oh
we're
man.
we're gonna hit 20 below tonight. With the,
Oh
with the wind
yeah.
chill.
We hit 50 in California and everybody's like bundled up like they're friggin' living in Alaska. And it's just kind of funny when you see that. And your whole
Yeah.
coast would just laugh at us. It's like, all right, let's pull out the parkas and the Uggs and just bundle up with our scarves. And it's it just cracked
Oh yeah.
49. So what are we gonna do with ourselves? So it's
We
yeah, definitely just a California thing, I would have to say. So
my
tonight, oh, go ahead.
my
Sorry.
my wife and kids have been home since last Wednesday. So Tuesday last week was the last time they went to school because we've had spurts of weather and whatnot since last Tuesday.
Oh
So it's
wow.
yeah, they've gotten a whole new a whole new break. So I'm ready for them to go back.
I'm sure. Yeah, that's crazy too because you're in an area where they know about snow and they can usually scoop it out, but I
Yeah.
guess it's when it's that bad, doesn't matter where you are, getting some snow days.
Well, I hope they enjoyed it.
Yeah. I'm sure you'll be ready for them to go back and probably they will too. So yeah, I was gonna say we're gonna throw things a little bit different order tonight because we have an interview with the band that I'm going to be playing throughout the program. So we're going to kind of save the questions for when they're relevant to the discussion. So we're going to start off with our history of this band. So what of Mr. Gnome?
I mean, literally, this is the first time that you introduced it when we started breaking down our list for what we were going to add to the show. So this is my first history with them. And as I was telling you backstage, I wish I had known about them sooner because this one we're getting ready to talk about is pretty good. And so, not to give any spoilers away or anything like that, but yeah, I wish I'd known about them earlier. I
Yeah.
really enjoyed my time listening to this album.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I discovered them in 2020, and that's when I was just furiously trying to find new music because what else was there in the world at that point? I mean, it was just kind of you're stuck at home. I was digging through, playlist after playlist, and I think it was probably through one of the NPR playlists that I listened to that showcases what new music's coming out that week, and that's when they put the album "The Day You Flew Away" out, and I
Yeah.
heard, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of what song. I think it was actually the title track or maybe How to Talk in Technicolor. And I heard it and I was just like, holy crap, what is this? It's so good. And immediately ran over to Bandcamp, bought the album. And, at that point, you were supporting the bands because they were getting on Fridays, they weren't going to charge any fees. So the bands would get the full payment for that album sale. And I bought it and just got hooked. And I've been kind of discovering their catalog backwards now. So this is to last album. So I've gone through all of them and I don't even, play them on Spotify first. I just go straight to the vinyl, buy it, know that what I've heard from the band, I can trust that it's worth a purchase. And so far I have not been let down, just even going backwards, knowing kind of how the band moves and evolves. It's still exciting to
Yeah.
discover new music by the band. So now I'm down to the last album, which will be the first album since I went backwards. But yeah, I discovered them just by accident and love the music, love the band, and just now I'm excited to go see them again. I saw them perform last year, and it's kind of the same thing. I wish I had known about them earlier. I could have been seeing them in concert before, the world shut down for COVID and we weren't able to get out to concerts because if people that know me know that that was probably the hardest part of COVID for me, was just losing that ability to go to shows and discover new music that way, because that's such a staple of my life, and missing
Right.
that was hard. But I tried to find other ways to do it, and that was just discovery through playlist after playlist, and eventually you do discover some great stuff that way, but still not as fun as going out into a loud club and finding the bands that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, in my defense, I was overseas when this album came out, so maybe that might be part of why. I'm trying
Yeah,
to defend
that, and
my position
it
here.
it wasn't mainstream. I mean, that's the thing,
Yeah.
that it makes me so depressed to know that people don't know about this band, because anyone I talk to about music, and I work with an older group at my school, and they don't want to hear about my musical discoveries, but I'm still like, you have to check this band out. This band, Mr.
Yeah.
Gnome, is so good. And I'm kind of yelling it from the rooftops, and they don't want to hear it. They're like, shut up, play James Taylor. They would love everything that I grumble about on this show. They would be like,
So
oh,
you're
no,
saying we
really
would get
good.
along.
Yeah, there's a better chance. They'll get mad at me for talking trash like I do, but that's okay.
Nah, you're good.
Yeah.
You don't
But
talk
yeah,
trash.
they would generally listen more to that. And yeah, for me, yeah, I'm, like I said, I'm constantly trying to do music, and it's, not many people to share it with. So I'm glad we do this every week, because this is a place you're always open to listening to whatever weird stuff I throw your way. And yeah, it's nice to have someone I can talk music to. So we're going to jump ahead. Like I said, our order is going to be all off today. So overall thoughts, we're going to jump right in with that, because once we get to the history of the artist, we're going to actually hear from the artist. They're going to tell us their own history instead of my normal internet research where I scour the internet for facts. We're going straight to the source. So we're going to talk our overall thoughts about the album, and then they're going to tell us their thoughts about the album as well, their favorite tracks, while us are. So what were your overall thoughts on this one?
It was, first of all, it was different than a lot of the stuff that we have listened to lately. Mm-hmm. And it was a great breakup. And so from the normal stuff that we do listen to, just as I told you, I think if I say this quite a bit, but if you're a writer or a creator or something, and you need inspiration for something, this is a great album just for that. Like I said, I'm working on doing some touch-ups to my novel, and I have some scenes going on, in hell. And not that this is bad or it's hellish music. It just fit for what I was writing, and it was inspirational in that aspect. And I thought it was great. Each song just flows so well with each other. They're flow well. The album doesn't. You don't miss anything, if that makes any sense. Yeah. If anybody's out there watching, you don't miss anything. It's just it's fluid, and you can still, you can still get down. But what I mean by that, you can still, really get into the music, but it's not over the top either. It's not, it's not like we're going to go back to like some of the 38 Special songs that we listened to that were over the top. Yes. It just flowed well, and each melody was beautiful, and I really enjoyed how they produced it and got it all to work together, and I just felt that it was a beautiful album. It just it worked so well, and this is one that I was glad to listen to, and I listened to it again like 2 or 3 times. Again today, just I did my first listen, and I listened to it again over and over, and I just thought it was wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would call it a weird album, but that's in no way an insult. It's weird in the best ways, because it's got pop, it's got punk, it's got psychedelic, and it's all kind of through this dreamy lens that gives it a haunted quality. And something I love is a haunted quality. I mean, I love good goth music, and like when we're listening to The Cure, going back through that haunted feel where the album just kind of you're talking about writing a scene in hell, and the album fits for that. You could write a scene moving through a haunted house or a haunted cave, and it just has that feeling. And I love the songs move to different directions. They'll start in one place, and then they'll do a
Yes.
complete 180 and take you a different direction, and then veer right back. So it's got that prog rock feel to it. And one of their influences that they talked about when we're doing the interview, I'll definitely mention, but just the constant change of direction is just fun, because you can never just sit back and know, okay, it's just going to be a straight ahead rock song, kind of like
Yeah.
taking it back to 38 Special. What they do is fine, but it's just kind of straight line. It's not veering around and
Yeah.
taking all these different directions. And that's, I think, what Mr. Gnome does so well, is just move around in so many different ways.
Yeah. But it's not over, like that's what I said, it's not over the top. It flows. Even when you go from one aspect to the other, it flows. It doesn't, you don't get a whole like we talked about. It's not like we put on the brakes and lift up the needle. It just flows. And I agree with that 100%. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So there, normally, now we're going to move into our normal categories, but we're going to just kind of take them in a different way today, because we are actually lucky enough to have been able to talk to the band. So before we move into that, the one thing we can say is reviews were pretty difficult to find. They weren't reviewed in the mainstream. Like, you can't find a Pitchfork. There is no Metacritic, but the reviews that I found were generally really positive. And one of the ones that I loved is they said this band reminds them of Fiona Apple if she were the lead singer of Black Sabbath. I'm like, that is just a beautiful analogy. I friggin' love it so much. Yeah. So it kind of works. And the only comparison they got kind of irked at was when someone compared them to Evanescence, and they're like, did you even play this album? So yeah, I can definitely not hear the Evanescence, but Fiona Apple fronting Black Sabbath, I hear that. And that's as good a compliment as you're going to throw at a band, because I love listening to Fiona Apple. I love Black Sabbath, and it's just kind of like the marriage of the two. You got your harder edge to the album, but it's got its softer edges as well. So yeah, that's an interesting and cool comparison that I found.
That's 2 weeks in a row. That's 2 weeks in a row now that we've come up with a new kind of genre that we want to hear. Because last week with Lori, we had the cello and what was it?
38
Goth
Specials
Country or whatever it was.
Ska Goth, or no, Ska Country.
Ska Goth.
So yeah. So
Ska Country.
Yeah.
And now we got Fiona Apple and
Black Sabbath. Yes. And I'm here for both. Awesome. So this, they exist, and luckily they're already here. Our ska and country, ska and southern rock, we still haven't seen it yet. And I even searched, I scoured the internet to see if there was a ska band that did a 38 Special cover, and I'm sad to say there is not. So yeah, we will keep searching, and one day we will find the greatness that is 38 Special ska band. All right, so let's start. We start with our normal category, and that is the history of the artist. So first question I asked the band was essentially that. So I told them we start every show with a brief history of the band. So what is the history of Mr. Gnome? So let's hear directly from them. Hold on a second. Let me get my... All right, so let's hear about the history of Mr. Gnome.
The origin story of Mr. Gnome. Well, Sam and I met all the way back in high school, and we became very close very quickly. One of the main things that bonded us right away was our love of music. We, talked about music obsessively and shared so many things with each other. And I remember one of the first phone conversations that we had, I found out that he had a drum set in his bedroom, which I thought was the coolest thing ever. As a 16-year-old hearing that, like, your parents must be the coolest that you have a drum set in your bedroom, And so yeah, so those early days we definitely jammed together and like tried to make songs and stuff, but it wasn't until after college that we started taking it seriously and started really trying to play out. But yeah, I will say that Sam always encouraged. He was really the first person to encourage me to sing, and it was just a really exciting time. We felt like, we felt like just excited by the opportunity to be creative in that way.
That's cool.
All right. So there's
Yeah.
our first question, just kind of giving us the history, and crazy to think that they started all the way back in high school. And now, if you didn't know, they are married. They do have a kid together. So yeah, they not only found each other musically, but they found each other. They found partners in each other, which is amazing. You get a lot of the bands like that are a couple. One of the bands I think of is Low, and they were a two-piece the same way that these guys are, and they played together, toured together. The lead singer sadly passed away, but they were always that kind of that beautiful musical couple, not like Jack and Meg White, which one day he's calling her his sister, one day he's his wife, then she's his ex. I was like, all right, make up your mind, Jack White, make up your mind, sir. So, second question I asked them was what some of their musical influences were, and yeah, that one.
Yeah,
your
mic is.
I'm just sitting there kind of nodding my head. So let's.
Yeah, you're chopping up pretty bad.
Am I? Oh.
Yeah. Now you're. Yeah, right, you sound good.
Okay, so I'll get a little closer. So let's hear about what are some of their major musical influences.
I feel like our musical influences are really all over the place. I don't think we've ever been the kind of people to only listen to a specific type of music. And you can kind of hear that in our writing, where like we pull from all sorts of genres and influences. And when I was growing up, my dad always had music playing, and it would be soul, it would be psychedelic, it would be, classic rock, like it would be the Beatles, it would be Bowie, it would be everything. Really, I got exposed to so much music and so many different kinds of music. And then I met Nicole, and she was listening to a whole other types of music. And so we've been turning each other onto music ever since we met each other, and we've been using all of that as influence this whole time as well.
Yeah, our influences, like right now, specifically for, the last year of writing, always Otis Redding, always Bowie. We got turned on to Mannequin Pussy recently, and they are so amazing. Built to Spill's a constant. We love LCD Sound System. And then everything from like Kendrick Lamar to SZA, just got turned on to Doechii. She's amazing. I think hip hop is so interesting right now. Just the creativity in the production and the artistic side of things. It's just really exciting. Yeah. And I, like Sam said, all those influences seep into what we do. And I'd be sad if we were only making one style of music. So I think we love that freedom in Mr. Gnome, that we know that our audience is patient enough to go on that journey with us and kind of trust where we're going to take them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can hear when she talked about Built to Spill, I can hear that because Built to Spill is definitely one of those bands that kind of move around in different directions in their songs. They never stay in a straight line. So I hear that, and it's funny because Mannequin Pussy, that's one that was on my end of the year list, and they keep coming back, and it's like, yeah, there's something about them, because if you listen to a lot of the indie list of like what was the best of the year last year, their name is popping up a lot, and it's such a good album, and it's just one of those things where I think people are discovering it little by little. So yeah, that's a lot of those influences. She was talking about the hip hop, and that's something we haven't really covered on this show as a hip hop album. So I think that's something for our next batch of albums. We're going to be picking our next 4 each. I think we definitely need to bring a hip hop album into the mix, because it's one thing.
Yeah,
it's definitely not in my wheelhouse. It's not something I'm an expert on. So it would be fun to cover it for both of us, because I think both of us come at it, we're not experts at all. And that's kind of the best way to discover something, is when you walk in almost blindly. So yeah, we definitely need to bring a hip hop album in, maybe even a Kendrick Lamar one, because I don't know if you've heard any, but I know the only Kendrick Lamar I really know was from what I saw at the Super Bowl, and people our age were grumbling a lot. So I'm like, all right, we need to cover it because they just whined about it. Okay, so your wife knows it more. That's good.
Oh yeah. No, we listen to a lot of Kendrick.
No expert on that. Okay, cool. Well, we'll definitely cover something. We definitely got to bring hip hop into the mix for our next round of stuff.
Absolutely.
So, all right. The next question that I asked them was, were they in any other bands before Mr. Gnome? And if so, how are those experiences different than Mr. Gnome that they play in right now?
My cousin actually got me.
Vinny.
My cousin Vinny. My cousin Greg got me. That was like my first bandmate. He got me into playing guitar when I was only like 13. And so we played we played friends parties where we would play like Green Day and silly songs and bounce around. And Sam always jammed with friends before we met too. So we were,
I didn't jam with friends. We would try to play one song over and over again and never quite get it right.
Smoke on the Water.
No, it was a Toadies song.
Oh, okay, nice, Toadies. Yeah, and then, the college days of jamming with friends and stuff like that. And then after college, Sam started writing a lot of his own songs, and so we kind of just started this basement band with like a rotating cast of musicians, but we had Sam's dad.
Including my dad, yeah.
We had Sam's dad on drums a bunch, and that was just so fun, and I think it gave us the confidence to be like, okay, we're real musicians now, even though we weren't, and we never played a show. But it gave me the confidence to start singing too, because I was really shy about it. And then, once you start singing in front of people, you're like, okay, this isn't so bad, and maybe it'll get better if I keep doing it. So yeah, all that led us to Mr. Gnome right after. I think our rotating cast of people, not everyone could meet all the time, and Sam and I were always hanging out, so we're like, all right, well, let's just start playing as a two-piece, and
we saw our friends were playing as a two-piece at that time, and they were crushing it, and we're like, dude, we don't need to rely on anyone else except for each other, and we can probably give this a good run, and then we started writing that way as a two-piece, and then eventually that was the first time we would ever get on stages as a two-piece too. So, as Gnome in 2004
at a strip club, converted. It wasn't a strip club anymore. Thank you.
So yeah, jamming with their dad, that's kind of that's cool. Definitely, like you were saying, the cool dad who's out there jamming with them in their little side band. So sounds like they were from high school, they were in the bands, and that's something. I just look back and think, why didn't I learn how to play an instrument? It's like, have all that time, and then eventually, you still could, but I haven't yet, and it just sounds so much fun just jamming with a bunch of friends in your basement. So yeah, that's something I definitely don't know how to do. I know you were saying you do the karaoke and you can go up there and rock it. So yeah, the next question that I asked the band was about their particular music scene, because they are a band, and I don't honestly know what the music scene in Cleveland is like. I know I live near LA, and of course the LA music scene is thriving, but a bit pretentious. It's kind of, you get that snootiness of, we play in Hollywood, and we're coming up in Hollywood, and every band is coming up in LA and New York. But what's it like being a band that's coming up in the Cleveland scene? Not what's known as one of the big rock scenes out there. So the next question is, what is it like coming up in the Cleveland scene?
Coming up in the Cleveland music scene, the Cleveland music scene really shaped who we were and who we are. That sound and the Rust Belt rock. Just going to local shows in the beginning was so magical. I had a friend named Alex, and he was playing in a band called Cows in the Graveyard, and that was the first local show I ever went to. And it was like heavier music, and Alex has this very angelic, wonderful voice, but he can also do like that growl, that I love so much. And I after I went and saw him, I told Sam, I was like, you have to come see him with me. And then Sam had that whole experience of being like, okay, like local musicians, this is so amazing that someone in our hometown can be so great. And we were so into playing music that we're like, well, maybe if we work hard, we can be decent enough to get up on stage around here, And so I feel like our friends really inspired us a lot. We were around a lot of really creative people. And then, then we want to start playing shows as we start practicing and writing our own songs and realize how hard that is, without knowing the way to get your foot in the door. So we played some Battle of the Band stuff in the middle of the afternoon. They make you sell tickets and you're playing with like 12 to 15-year-olds. It's pretty great. And then some clubs around Cleveland started giving us a chance and, just started getting our foot in the door and that's kind of how things happened. We started touring regionally after that, found our booker, started touring nationally, and then every time we would come back to Cleveland, our crowds were just getting bigger and bigger, which, we're just so appreciative to that. We love Cleveland so much, so to do well here means the world to us.
Yeah.
All right. So I see I'm blinking now. I don't know what's going on. I'm hardwired, but hopefully we can keep going through. So the last one that I asked them before we actually get into talking about the album itself was that if you read anything about the band, they have this, they're well known for having these explosive energy live shows, but they also have to translate their albums because these albums, there's a lot of layers, as we were talking about, and it's been brought up onto the stage as a two-piece. So I asked them, how do they adapt their sound to play as a two-piece band, just playing kind of in a smaller setting? So let's take a look at what they said, or take a listen.
Our live show, like what it is today, it's evolved over the past 20 years. We started out as primarily a punk band, I guess, just a really simple setup, drums, guitar, and voice, and we would just be like, how loud can we be right now? How much noise can two people make, And then that's kind of how we were writing at the time too, but then we started writing in more of a little bit of a psychedelic way or soft way or folk way. We started
the studio too. I think the studio shaped where we headed,
Yeah, we were having a hard time figuring out how to be recording artists. We feel like we figured out how to be a punk rock band first, then we're like, okay, take it in the studio and translate all this with the same energy and the same meaning, and it was difficult. And so we started as recording artists taking a little bit of a different approach to the process, in that we would start layering things. We'd make sweeter moments of songs sweeter and aggressive moments more aggressive, and we do this by layering vocals or guitars or whatever tricks, and that work on the record. And then you're like, well, how the heck are we going to do that live?
Right. And I if I could say, I think touring shaped our live show so much. I mean, you get exposed to so many other bands and the ideas that they're doing and pedals, and the more you see and the more you're in the mix of things, you understand how many ways there are to do something.
So you bring these tricks in, into the live setting, where we started playing out of 2 amps. So she would play a clean signal out of one, a dirty out of another. And then we started bringing in 2 different microphones for her vocals. So for years and years, she would sing. We had this one mic hooked up to basically to have this amp sound, and then this other mic next to it had this reverb, and then she would kick delay on and off of both of them. So you were creating these dynamics with tricks like that. So we started incorporating these things and effects. And
I was doing a lot of live looping at one point too. But yeah, I think when we got back to getting ready for this tour last year, we just kind of got back to our roots, and we're trying to simplify the whole thing, but knowing that the energy and everything, all the passion that you put
put behind it is like that's the show. You know what I mean? Like that's always been what we are. We're always way more like energy and passion over like perfection necessarily, and hopefully we'll catch up to that side of things.
Yeah,
you know?
I think at our core we're a punk band, you know, in the sense of just like the simple approach to the music and the simple approach to the live setting, and so we feel the most comfortable there. I think if we really wanted to recreate some of the things on the record, we would have to bring like 10 people or do like backing tracks, and it's just you know, that stuff is, I don't know, maybe
Yeah, all respect to people that do backing tracks. I think we just didn't, like, we've always been trying to avoid that. I think we just wanted to, we're always like about the rawness. And I think it's just the way we've been inspired by other people we've seen. We're just like, okay, you know, that's just the way you are. You're like, okay, that's what I want to be. And you kind of latch on to that.
Yeah, I like getting up on stage and like blowing the walls off, you know. That's where I feel like if you can like really just transfer this energy with the crowd in that most primal way, that's the best way to do it.
All right, so now we're gonna dig into our thoughts on the album. We've let the band kind of tell us about the history of themselves, history of their live show. So now we're gonna talk about our thoughts about this particular album. So what do you think? Let's talk about, what are your favorite songs on this one?
Oh man, this is one. This almost goes back to The Cure, where literally almost every song was like I could sit there and make an argument as my favorite song.
Yeah,
I love that it starts. Spain starts out fantastic, and I love that again. You get right into the album, you get right into their groove, and Spain starts off really good. I love Vampires. That was one of my favorite ones. Tidor, and then again, even ending well with Heave Yer Skeleton. It's those are probably my, like, if I was sitting there if you sat me down and asked me right now, I'll pay you $1 million to tell me what your favorite 4 songs are, that would be it. But I can make an argument literally for every song on this album being one of my favorites. So it was hard for me to break it down. But again, I loved how Spain just opens it up. And if they're out there listening, I love that this was the song that you opened up with, because it really, really brings you in, and you're hooked immediately to Spain. But it's hard to. But Spain, Tidor, Vampires, Heave Yer Skeletons. It just, all those are really ones I focused on, especially when I got my second and third listens to the album afterwards.
Yeah, and I put Spain as mine as well, because we talk about it over and over again. Start strong, or your whole album, you're just going to lose a lot of people, especially me, because I have no patience. And I just, if you don't start strong, the chances of you getting to track 3 or 4, maybe that's where your best numbers are. If 1 and 2 aren't good, I'm not going to go. And Spain just kind of sucks you into the atmosphere of the album. It's got that dream-like, ethereal state right from the opening notes, and it just kind of beautiful production. And that's one thing you don't get a lot of with indie rock, is great production, especially when you're talking the second album that they've ever done. I mean, there are some great albums that I love that are just garbage production because they didn't have money. I mean, these bands, they're not coming in, they're not rich, they don't have the money like a band like The Cure, like we've talked about. They have infinite money in the studio. They don't need to worry about, paying any kind of studio fees. But when you're a smaller band and you're just kind of rising in the ranks of the Cleveland scene, you don't have infinite money. So a lot of times the production is what really falls, and you hear it, and it's like, ooh, there's greatness in these songs, but they just didn't find it yet. And in this one, you don't hear that. You hear really crisp and strong production right from the get-go, which is, like I said, very rare with great indie stuff. I mean, there's albums I absolutely love, but know that the production just isn't there yet. But this one, Spain just gets you right in. Another one that I really love was the Sit Up and Hum. And I love how it just kind of starts with that kind of bouncy piano, and then you get his drum work kind of building in there, and then the whole song just goes all over the place. And that's
Yeah.
something that I always love, and that's, you know, when they were talking about Built to Spill, that's one of their specialties, just songs veering left and right, and then just moving, and now it's rocking hard. Now it's kind of feeling haunted again, and yeah, you don't feel it's a 5-minute song, but it doesn't feel like a 5-minute song. It just zips right by, and I guess that's the true thing on most of this album is even the longer songs don't feel their length. It's just they keep moving in such a way where you're just like, give me 5 more minutes. I'm good with that. And yeah, it's rare that you get that, because some songs they wear out their welcome. And I just think, okay, this has been going on too long. Time to hit that skip button. But never on this album did I think that, and I never had that wish. Like, all right, I need to move the vinyl over one, like we talked about last week. Yeah. Especially, even though it's a pain, I would still make the effort to get rid of that song and not have to hear it. And there's nothing on this like that. I also liked Cleveland Polka. It's just such a bouncy rocker song, and that one, when they were talking about their live show, that was one of the ones I think they played that second. And actually, the opening music that we were using today for the show was from a live recording I made of Cleveland Polka. So it's actually their live version of the song, and hoping it wouldn't get flagged, and it didn't. So hey, call that a win.
Yeah,
not the one from the album. We should be good to go, and it seems to be. So let's see what's some people are saying. All right.
Hi, Uncle Swifty.
Yes. So, talking with Pops next week, we're going to try to play the music pre-show on Pilled, and then that way you can listen to it before we play it, and you can come in and tell us what you think, because you'll have had a chance to hear it first. So we're going to try to do that, and we're going to see if we can do that, and hopefully, we're going to fix my mic. So I don't know if it's still blinking out, because it sounds okay to me, but I really don't know. So has it been okay since it was blinking out earlier?
Every little bit, every once in a while, for me, I don't know about for them, every once in a while I'll get a little bit of a choppiness sound, but you sound fine to me. And Pops, if you're out there listening, I haven't forgot what you sent to me. I'm working on a new one that's under, and it has a little bit different pictures and videos to go with it. So I haven't forgotten what you asked me.
All right. And I apologize for any mic issues. I have what I thought was a good mic, but it's not doing its job today. So apologies for that. I will go through and run a test on everything. So now, those 2 songs. Then I also picked, let me see, what was the 4th one? Oh, The Slow Side. I loved that one too. This is kind of a big rock number that just grows and grows. And I'm a huge sucker for good percussion, and this album is just loaded with great percussion work. So, I mean, the 2 together, even though it's a 2-piece, they do a lot of looping, and you can tell. And it's just, love the drum work. Sam's drum work is just consistently strong the whole way through the album. All right, so we're going to listen to a little bit of the band's history of the album. So the question I asked them was, so let me see, let me get in that. So what was the conceptual or thematic inspiration behind Heave Yer Skeletons? So what were the themes that they were trying to work with when they were making this album? So let's hear what they had to say on that one.
When we first started writing Heave, we definitely didn't have like a theme or a concept in mind. I feel like our albums are always like these journal entries of like where we are in that moment, you know. And in that moment, we were being very inspired by surrealism, surreal art, folk art, you know, more indie music, more folk music. I just think like there were all these things that were kind of bleeding into the creation process, and we were getting into like dreams and, you know, psychonaut hallucinating, the dream state. And also I think this was like the most artistic endeavor that we were attempting to you know, take on. And so I feel like we were just kind of touching like on more emotions within us while writing. It wasn't just like
like Deliver, which was our first record, was just heavier and more raw, and this one was like a little more refined, a little more artistic, really pushing those songs, you know. But yeah, anyways, yeah. So I think the theme ended up creating itself at the end of the day with all the songs that we ended up choosing, and then like where we were at, you know, just where our heads were at with what we were being attracted to with like art and music and just life, really. And then, you know, when we had finished the record, I was reading this article about the author David Foster Wallace, and his mom was a writer as well, and she had come up with this phrase, heave your skeleton, and it was just the idea of you throwing yourself onto your bed at the end of a long day. And I just really enjoyed it. I just really enjoyed like the way that sounded, and I felt like it kind of summed up the record perfectly. So yeah, that's where that came from.
All right. So the next question I asked them, also kind of sticking with the album itself, and that was, Sam does all of the artwork for the band. So if you look through the artwork that they've done for their albums, it's always unique, always a really interesting style. So this is the Heave Yer skeleton artwork, and I asked him what was the inspiration for the artwork for that album. So, and then how did he connect the album art with the themes that they talked about? And they talked about the dreamlike, and you can certainly hear that dreamlike quality in the album. So yeah, they definitely captured that well. Dreamed, I mean, like I said, I call it kind of haunted, where it has that haunted feel to it. And how did he create album artwork that kind of connects with that same dream-like haunted theme? So let's hear what Sam had to say.
I think at the time of both our first record and this record, I was really getting into the story of this folk artist named Henry Darger. And he was a very interesting human who made some really, really interesting art. And
oftentimes questionable.
Yeah, so that's why I'll just use the word interesting a lot. But so I just liked his style. He did basically like photo collage.
I feel like his art really like taps into what was going on in his mind too. And if you think about Heave, like the art that we ended up creating, it is very like internal and very, you know, in your head, you know.
And so we're taking this, what we feel is a very surreal record concept theme is going on, and we were, like we said, really into the ideas of dreams and dream states. So, and I was being inspired by Henry Darger a lot, and
Frida Kahlo, Dali, surrealism.
Yeah, so we just kind of took all those worlds, and we'd been, you know, visualizing this idea of these people getting carried into the dream state, these who ended up being the girls on the cover, getting carried into the dream state by these birds and this dropped off into this dream bed, and that's basically, you know. But
you were, with the colors and the imagery, you were really trying to go for like this fuzzy, otherworldly, like in between feeling.
Yeah, and you can see that. Here's the cover right here, and you can see there's the birds. She's dropping into the bed. There's a horse creature thing. So yeah, it's definitely got that surrealism when they were talking about Dali and things like that. I mean, a lot of the artists they were talking about, I don't know, because I'm certainly no art expert, but when you talk about Dali and his surrealism, it's there, and you can see kind of what he was going for with this one. And yeah, definitely captured that dreamlike feel that they were going for the whole album. And it's always good when an album cover really just matches what the album's going for, because a lot of times you get that, here's a picture of the band, and you know, it's standard, it works, but it's not very exciting. And this, you can look into this and dig in.
They're not sitting at a pool table with sunglasses on, waiting for you to come over and talk to them.
Yeah, they're not sipping on the beers like 38 Special and friggin' looking at that one, it's like, not much thought was put into that. Like, all right, hey, we're at the bar, get the photo guy, bring over the photographer, and let's snap some pictures real quick.
Yeah, I would have loved to use this one for one of my humanities classes that I went through. This would
Mhm.
have been a beautiful, beautiful topic for as far as discussion to talk about this painting, because
Yeah.
it grabs you again. You know, it's whether you're picking it out of the album bin, or you're looking for it online, or you're
Yeah.
it immediately grabs you. And I thought that it, like you said, it fits the music, and it fits the theme of the album, and I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the next question I asked, I'm kind of sticking with the album itself, and that was, how did the process of writing and recording this album differ from their debut album, which was, their debut album was much more indie. This one was actually recorded in a bigger studio. It was recorded in the studio that's owned by Josh Homme, who's the singer of Queens of the Stone Age. So
Yeah.
they kind of talk about that a little bit, because that, when I was researching it before I had known if the band was going to be able to participate or not, the research I found was that this album was recorded in that studio, and that's going to be a higher end studio, because at that point in 2009, Queens of the Stone Age were really big, so they would have had state-of-the-art equipment. So I asked them how it was different recording this second album in a much bigger and more elaborate studio.
So for this record, we got invited to record at Pink Duck Studio, which was a studio in Burbank, California, that was owned by Josh Homme from Queens of the Stone Age. His engineer, Justin Smith, heard one of our EPs, and
It was our first record. Yeah.
It was our first.
It was
record?
yeah. It was
Okay.
Night of the Crickets. Yeah.
Okay, and he liked it, and he wanted to work with us, and we couldn't believe it, and we still can't believe it. It was a pretty awesome moment for us in our career. It was a real, big moment, and so this album differed greatly in the recording process in that it was a huge deal for us. It was intimidating.
There was so much pressure.
And we felt a lot of pressure, and we were taking our craft a lot more seriously than we ever had, even leading up to the invite. So we already were putting pressure on ourselves, and then this happened, and it was a really cool moment, and we couldn't believe it was happening. So
I think people talk about their debut albums versus the second too, and I feel like the first one, it's like, you like, it's just, you could do anything. Like, there's nothing really laid out for who you have to be, for the second one, and then to get the invite to go to the studio too. I think we were just really trying to like push ourselves and push every single song we were writing to where it could go, and like, I feel like that was really those first writing sessions where we were like, let's take a song and play it over and over again, and like, there's no limitation on where it could go. So, if we slow it down so much, and and the vibe's right, we're gonna do it. So I feel like that's where it differed.
yeah, and we were, for the first time, like, working with somebody who wanted to work with us.
Yeah, versus just picking a studio
happened.
and and just kind of.
So we met Justin, and we've been great friends with him ever since. But it was a really amazing experience to walk into that place and see like all the amazing gear they had. Justin is so talented at what he does, and just having the people that were walking in there, like, moments before you, are these people that are, you're like, holy smokes, I can't believe I'm here.
They also had just, I believe that was for that record, because we ended up doing our next record, Menace in Miniature, there too. But I'm pretty sure them Crooked Vultures had just finished their record there, which was Dave Grohl and Josh and John Paul Jones. So just to add to the pressure, but I will say,
let's play some weird folk psychedelic.
I do feel like that studio like helped shape the next. I mean, even to this point, like, it really influenced us so much, because Josh had collected so much gear over all the years up until we walked in that door. The vintage amps, the vintage guitars, the pedals, like. It really like changed our perspective of like, just getting those sounds, and like, the real deal of those old amps that just sound amazing, and just understanding how to like shape the sound instead of just be like, okay, let's record the song. It doesn't really matter what guitar or amp I use, you know. So that was like the beginning of it, and Justin was such a huge part of that. Of like, oh no, I have like the perfect idea to make, you know, this part sound great. So yeah, amazing experience. We feel so lucky that we got to do a few albums there.
Nice.
All right. So yeah, that's crazy because I remember when them Crooked Vultures got together, they only did one album. I don't know if you ever heard the album they did, but yeah, you have John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, Dave Grohl from, of course, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, who was drumming, and Josh Homme playing guitar. And it was like this little super group and so good, but then just never did a follow-up. They did one tour. I was fortunate to see that one, but I can imagine you're just, you're some little indie band walking up to the studio, and there's John Paul Jones from Led Zeppelin, there's Dave Grohl from Nirvana, and just like, all right, that would intimidate anyone seeing, that level of musician walking out of the studio before.
Walking out of the studio, yeah.
Yeah. So the last one I asked about kind of their creative process was, how has their creative process changed since they had their child? So I'm sure it's a lot easier. I mean, both of us know we have kids. It's a lot easier to create and do things before kids. I mean, of course, we love having our kids. It's an amazing blessing, but it changes the dynamics of creation for sure. So I asked them, how did it change their creative process when they had their son?
So before we had our son, we would just play all the time. We'd plug in and we'd play, and we'd write everything in the live setting, every single thing. We'd be like, hey, here's a beat, and she'd start playing guitar, and then she'd start singing, and then that would generally just be how we would write all of our music. And then we had our son, and we couldn't play at all, basically, for a long time together. So we had to figure out how we're going to keep being a band, how we're going to keep making music. We were forced to evolve. We had to completely change if we wanted to continue to be Mr. Gnome in any fashion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I feel like it was a good push for us, like in the evolving state of things, because I feel like us writing in the way that we were before we had our son, it just had kind of run its course a little bit, and I feel like being forced to now like create things in the box, to have these music beds to create on top of and to sing on top of, and to not come up with my vocal ideas, in the live setting, and instead have these like really personal moments where I would just take this stuff for hours and work on it. I think it really helped me grow as a vocalist and as like a melody maker too, because the pressure wasn't quite the same.
Yeah, so we have separate writing sessions. Mm-hmm. That's how we would do it. Mm-hmm. I would watch the baby and she would go and write and then pass on whatever she was writing to me, and vice versa. I would write, chord progressions or even just full music beds or whatever would inspire her, pass it on to her, and hope that we could have a song at the end of the day. And, we did a whole album like that, and half of the previous album like that. Yeah. So it was a new style. It was a new way, and we were, forced to do it, but we were also enjoying it. We found that it was leading us down some paths that we know we wouldn't have gone down otherwise, and we're thankful for that, because now we're writing in a way where we get to do both ways. We get to go play for hours and write that way, and we get to go back to doing stuff separately and more in the box. Mm-hmm. And so we've taken both these moments of our lives, and now we get to do them both because he's in school now. So
yeah.
Yeah, so that's, thinking about any band, when you're a married band, they have to rethink everything, because you think about your kids right now, they're home with the snow, so it's like, all right, probably not much creation going on because you have a house with kids, and they're being kids. They're just they're out, they're going to do what they want. So them having to redo how they wrote an album, I'm sure for them led to some interesting stuff. And I know the last two albums they've released have been extremely great albums. One of them's a double album, the one that I first discovered, and then their newest one is also great, but those were recorded in their newer way. But it's nice because I know for a little while with their son, they weren't even able to tour anymore. They had paused touring, so now they're back on the road, which is a good thing. I was happy to be able to finally see them. So we're going to kind of jump in, talk a little bit ourselves about what were some of your favorite lyrics, and then we're going to listen to what Nicole and what she has to say about what her favorite songs are and what her favorite lyrics are. So what are some lyrics that stood out to you on this one?
Listen, we're going to go right into Spain, and just again, we talked about thousands and thousands of times now since we've been on this show, and you just mentioned it earlier. As long as you open up your album, with a good song, you're going to get me connected. And let's just listen. I mean, just this right here from the beginning, it just starts so well. Open the wall, ghost help me crawl. What's the black light? Sing to me, friends. Sing till the end. It was all right. Now, obviously, I didn't do it in their beautiful lyrics and singing voices and things, but I mean, it just opens up so well, and everything is about the lyrics that they write. I feel like you're just, you can feel them. We talked about that with Amy Winehouse. We talked about that with going back all the way to our first one that we did with The Cure.
Yeah. The Cure and Soccer Mommy, we talked about their lyrics and just they resonate with you. And you gotta start strong with that. I mean, you can have goofy lyrics. There's nothing wrong with that. But when certain lyrics can just stick with you, that's the most powerful thing.
And now that they're taught, now that we sit here and listen to them talk about they're in the dream state, you get even better understanding of where they were when they wrote this, and so again, you're just like, wow. And we talked about vampires. That's another one that I liked, and it's not again, I'm not in the dream state, or I'm not feeling down or up or whatever feelings, but you don't even have to be in the mood or any kind of mood. You can just sit here and listen. You can just be in a regular, normal, everyday, I just got off work mood. And these lyrics are going to hit you. And so Vampires the same way. I loved it. Let me get my notes here. Sorry, my phone is good Lord. Again, here's another one. Well, you run from the guys that chase you down because they're hunting you out just to get your head. Like I said, I'm sitting here writing my fixing up some of my stuff in my novel, and this song pops on, and I'm just like, nice. This it fits, and you're just like, the inspiration to even just I went from just like, sometimes I hunt and peck because I'm thinking, and this this song comes on, and I'm just like, wow, I can just. It flows. And so and then it goes into, well, you hop in a car and back it up, and I swear I'll eat you later. We've listened to lyrics where they are, they go into telling a story. This tells a story. Yeah. I like it. And then, so those are some of my favorite lyrics from the songs that I liked. But like you talked about hip hop in Cleveland. That had some good hills, valleys, and value. Oh yeah, Cleveland polka. What did I say? The Today Brings a Bomb. All these lyrics. I could, like I said, I can make an argument for every song, every bit of lyrics, and if I talked about every song and every lyric, we'd be here till Ed has to eat dinner. So but those are some of my favorite.
I put in one of the ones I had Cleveland polka. I just lost my mind. I'm doing fine now. I lost my mind. So I like how just that the general craziness of it, and just that the beat kind of fits that as well. And then on Heave Yer Skeleton, where she's saying Oh, won't you lie with me? The sun passes over.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
the sky may fall, it shatters alone. So close that I should go. Don't force me to stay. So close, I feel it now. We bury the day. I mean, it's like, damn, that's not just
That's
lyrics. That's poetry, and you could
poetry. Yeah.
pull it. You could bring that into my English lit classes back in the day, and we could be evaluating that song, and could find so much different meaning in there. So yeah, there's like you said, it's one that you could have brought to one of your humanities classes and studied the cover, studied the lyrics, and
yeah, you're right.
Digging deep into this one.
Yeah, this would, again, like you said, I would have I would love for it, and if I was teaching humanities, this would be one of the very first lessons that we had, because this is a strong, I mean, like you said, the art, the lyrics. This would be a strong class. I mean, you can go almost 2 weeks just delving into this.
Yeah,
this album. That's how good it is.
Oh yeah. So the next question I asked them, because we were talking about our favorite songs, our favorite lyrics, I asked her, and seeing as Nicole does the songwriting, I asked her what were her favorite songs from Heave Yer Skeleton. So let's hear what she has to say, because we have our favorite pick. So we'll see if we match.
I personally feel like Heave Yer Skeleton, it was a very important moment in my life. It was a really cool moment, and it felt really important as we were doing it. It certainly isn't like our most popular record, but it really feels like it's really close to me, and I appreciate
it. Was like our artistic. I felt like we were becoming more artistic and not just loud and yelling.
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, it holds a really special place in my heart. But as far as like specific songs go off that record, I always really enjoyed writing and recording the song Pixie Dust. I really enjoyed writing and recording the song Spain. And then I felt like, Plastic Shadow and Cleveland Polka were two songs that we were playing live, that we would play them and the crowd would just go crazy. So those are two really cool songs, because we still play them and people still really enjoy them. So that's, I guess, those are my favorite ones off there.
Sit Up and Hum is one of my favorites, and I just that song was called Wayne's World when I first wrote it, and I have no idea. Like, I'll look back on, I have this one notebook with all this Heave stuff. I'm like, what weird thing in my brain connected that opening riff with
I can understand it, though.
I have no idea, but yeah, that song I just like, that was what I was talking about before, of like the this is the writing session where we really started pushing ourselves, and I felt like Sit Up and Hum was a song like that, where we just kept, it has like a totally different ending than the beginning, and we just kept kind of pushing it. It was so fun. And yeah, Sam kind of talked about my other favorites. We wrote Slow Side at the very end of this record being done, and we really love that song so much. It's not very popular for us, but we really love that song when we wrote it. So even when I hear it now, it's just got you know how songs just give you the feels. I enjoy the tone of it for whatever reason.
Yeah, I mean, when we get to the point where we talk about skips, I don't think either one of us have any kind of skip moments from this album. So the next question I asked them, kind of connecting directly to the segment we're in, and that's what lyrics from the album were the most meaningful for her. Then it's kind of just closing out the interview. So this is the last one that directly connects with the album. So what are her favorite lyrics? What are his favorite lyrics? So let's find out.
The most meaningful lyrics on Heave Yer Skeleton to me are from the title track, Heave Yer Skeleton. And I just think they're really vulnerable. And I think it was written from such a sensitive space, and once again talking about all these different emotions that we were touching upon with this record that we hadn't really touched upon before, and then going back to the themes too, like dreams and going inside your own mind. I feel like I was working through some feelings of loss and grief from my life, and this was one of the first times that I started connecting with the idea of like, you know, bonding so much with one person that can like kind of help you through it all. And then a very talented musician friend of ours, Zach from If These Trees Could Talk. They're a post-rock instrumental band that are just fantastic, but he came in and played guitar on this song too in the studio, so it just felt really magical in the moment. And yeah, so that's the one.
And my favorite lyrics are from a song called Sea Rider Falcon, which is an instrumental song, which has no lyrics because they got cut out of the song, but they were
Fly Away Unicorn.
Thank you.
That's where the horse creature comes in from.
So I guess so. Yeah,
that's the horse creature.
That's where we see it. Even though it got cut from the main song, there's our Fly Away Unicorn right there. So yeah, their lyrics. I agree. The ones from Heave Yer Skeleton, the title track, are just really strong lyrics. But it's lyrically, it's a really interesting lyrical album because it's more poetic. It doesn't have the kind of feel where it's like, all right, it's not narrative where, you know, you hear certain songs and they're just telling you a story from A to B, and they can still be just as powerful. When we were listening to The Cure, when we were listening to Soccer Mommy, and they were dealing with the loss that they had to deal with. That's a different type of lyric. It's still powerful and strong, but this is more poetic. You have to dig in. Like this gets my brain thinking back, you know, makes me feel like I'm back in college and I want to decipher these lyrics and dig in deep, figure out exactly what she's trying to say, especially knowing about the dream state that she kind of goes back to throughout this album. What is she talking about? What is that dream state? So yeah, it's something that I would love to dig deeper into. Now I guess I gotta go become a college professor so I can make sure that I'm like, all right, we're gonna be learning Mr. Gnome this week, and it's like, all right, you don't know him now, but you should.
Seriously, just from this album alone, like I've said, and I'm gonna keep harping on it. This is a great art class. I mean, this would be a great humanities and art and lyrics and poetry. You know, if you're a creative writer instructor, you use this as a tool because you know, it is poetry and it still tells a story. You're just having to you know, as you do with poetry, you know, it might be something different to this person than it does that one, but it still has a full meaning, and I love it. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, agreed. So I guess we can talk a little bit about this. Were there any skip tracks on this one? Any ones that you would say skip this one?
No, you just, again, it flows, and at no point are you going, I'm out of this album, because you're just all right, what's going to come next, and you're excited about what comes next after each song. And no, there's no skips. If you skip one, I'll question you later, because I'm not talking to you per se. I'm just talking to anybody out there listening. If you skip one, I got to know why. Because again, I could literally make an argument for every song being a number one song for me on this album. And if we were doing our you know, at the end of the year, I can definitely see what our, you know, Mr. Gnome at least having two. That's how good this album is. I can probably see Mr. Gnome coming in with two songs for me, anyways, and no matter what we listen to from here on out.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. And it's, you know, it's great to discover them. It's great to discover their albums, kind of like I said, working backwards through their catalog. So one album to go to listen to have then listened to their whole catalog. But hopefully we get something new from them this year, so we can, if we do, we'll definitely make that our album of that week if they put out something new later on. So yeah, I'm with you. No skippers. I mean, there's a couple songs that are super short, but it's not like they're bad. They're just quick, and they kind of keep things moving. So I guess here we have our easiest, you know, another easy one. Are we keeping this? Are we returning it to the used bin? Are we keeping it away from Lori's chainsaw so she doesn't destroy it?
Oh, this is a keeper. Man.
Yeah.
Definitely keeper. This, it'll be on a different playlist, but all the songs are on the playlist. Like it's that good. It really is. And I can, this is probably the first album that I've said I'm keeping all the songs on a playlist.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and we've listened to some great albums.
Mm-hmm. And I can just say, definitely get the album the day. Well, what is it? The Day You Flew Away. It is such a good album. It's a double album, and it is so strong. So if you like this one, go check that one out. That's the first one I discovered of the band, and it is just spectacularly good. I mean, from start to finish, same thing. It is just an immersive and beautiful album. So if you haven't heard it, check it out. I mean, I've been digging through their catalog backwards, and I haven't hit an album yet that I didn't love. So each album becomes my new favorite until I play the one, and then now it's just, enjoying a catalog of a band that is criminally underrated. That there's people don't know them, and I wish they did. I wish they were getting, best new music on Pitchfork and write-ups on all these things, because they deserve it. And I hope that, if we can bring even just a little exposure to this band, it's good, because you need to check them out. They're as good as we say, and you can grab any album from their catalog and you're going to love it, and you're going to be able to dig into it and really just kind of enjoy the ride. Because it's, like I said, it's weird, but that is the highest compliment I can give it. It doesn't hit you where you expect it to. And that's, the strongest thing about any album is it's not just a straight line of boring. And we've heard straight lines of boring, and this is not one of them. All right. So a couple last questions that I asked them. It's more just kind of wrap up questions. So the first one I asked them, I'm always curious what their favorite city to play in is. So, it's most bands I would guess wouldn't say LA, because LA is kind of that spot where people are very indifferent. You get that, like, let me just chat through the entire show thing. LA audiences absolutely make me crazy, but yeah, we'll see what they have to say on this one.
Well, we love our hometown of Cleveland, and those shows always just feel super special. We love Seattle, Portland. There are so many cities that we love. It's hard to narrow them down. Chicago, Columbus, Grand Rapids, Madison, Pensacola has been super fun. Atlanta, LA. It's hard. But I feel like Cleveland and the Pacific Northwest were kind of the cities that really first started connecting with us. Yeah. And so they just hold this special place in our heart.
Well, come to Oklahoma City.
In our hearts.
Yes. Yeah, hopefully they get out there. I would assume they're going to play LA when they come out on their next tour, and I will definitely be there. But yeah, they definitely gave the nice diplomatic answer with lots of cities that they enjoy playing. And I would think if you are a band, you're going to have cities you love, cities you hate, but you're not going to mention the ones you don't like.
Philadelphia.
There you go. There's the one that we didn't hear Philadelphia. So didn't hear New York. They did mention LA, so that's nice. The LA crowd hasn't been too jaded for them. So the last question I asked them that wraps up, and then we'll talk about what we have coming up next week. And this was a short and sweet answer, and that was, what can we expect from Mr. Gnome in 2025?
We are working on tons of new music right now. We're wrapping up a ton of songs we're getting ready to record, and we're also booking a tour right now for the fall. So yeah, we're super excited to be back and doing all this again after such a long time away. So much more to come.
Excellent.
Yes, I am ready. If they put a new album out, like I said, that will be one that we cover right away, because I can't wait to hear what they have planned next. They are an exciting band that just people don't know about, and they need to. And the old people at my work don't want to hear about it. So hopefully the people out there want to hear about this one. So let's talk about next week. Next week is our last one of this cycle, and that is Kate Bush, The Kick Inside. And I was already warned by one of my friends, don't you dare insult Kate Bush like you did 38 Special. So I'll be on my best behavior because he's like, no, Kate Bush, you can't do that to Kate Bush. So I'm like, all right, I will not do that to Kate Bush because
I didn't get the warning. I didn't get the warning.
You're free to do what you want. You just got to worry about your book co-host because she's gonna tear you apart. She'll kick your ass again. She was not a fan of what you said to Swift. But this one, I was warned. Don't you dare get nasty like you did about 38 Special. So I will not. I mean, but then in the end, didn't we have a good time at 38 Special going completely bonkers? So
yeah, well, that one went way. But listen, I'll be honest with Kate Bush, and I'll give a little spoiler right now. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know I'm an 80s, 70s, 80s child. Mm-hmm. I didn't even know she existed until Stranger Things. Let that sink into you guys.
Yeah, that's so about that. I mean, here we go. There's our spoiler alert for our previous knowledge about Kate Bush. It's kind of like running up that hill. That's my previous knowledge. I remember it from the 80s. Then Stranger Things made it popular, and all of a sudden my fifth graders were telling me about it, and they knew the song. So there's my previous knowledge. So we'll see. But I have been given specific instructions not to insult Kate Bush. So I'll do my best. But I truly make no promises because I haven't heard the album yet, and I will try to be nice. That's my promise. I always try to be nice. Sometimes I fail miserably, but I will try to be nice because it's not from the 70s. So at least there's that. I'm not gonna piss and moan about 70s rock again. And we have that much established. So next week, Kate Bush, and then Dash and I are digging into a whole new batch of albums. We're gonna pick our next 4 each, which will cover us for 2 months. But we're also going to be doing a crossover with Sarah White and her movie program. And we're going to be covering Wicked 2 different ways. Yeah. We're going to cover the movie on a Monday, and we'll send out information so you know when it's coming. And then Wednesday, the 3 of us are going to talk about the Wicked soundtrack. So that should be interesting because I am not a Broadway guy. So it's kind of taking me out of my wheelhouse. But again, it's not from the 70s, so I won't whine about that if nothing else.
You'll get a nice surprise about Dash on that show.
There we go. Early spoiler alert. So we get a surprise about Dash. But yeah, that'll be interesting, covering the movie and covering the soundtrack. So that will be after Kate Bush, who I am forbidden to insult. So, I have not been forbidden to insult Wicked, so I will try. Either way, I try not to be mean. Sometimes I lose my mind and I start talking about ska cover bands and I don't know where it comes from because it's not in my notes. I can guarantee you that. I did not write any of that shit in my notes. It just came out of my head and I must watch myself because Kate Bush fan has warned me. So let's do a few of our
sponsors.
Well, first off, before we play any of our advertisements, I want to thank Mr. Gnome so much for taking the time out of their schedule to share these answers with us. I mean, they really thought a lot about their answers. They gave us deep and, beautiful answers to these questions. And I thank you so much. We both love your album. We are here for whatever you have planned for 2025. I cannot wait. I will hopefully run over to the merch booth after the show and introduce myself properly. And you got to go play Oklahoma City so Dash can get in there too. And yes, thank you so much for sharing your answers with us, for sharing your journey of Mr. Gnome and your creation of your spectacular album, Heave Yer Skeleton. So thank you so much for your time and your effort. We appreciate you more than we can say. And now with that, we're going to hear from some of our sponsors. Check out Chris Brown. All right, so coming up in May, check that one out when it's live. All right, and our last sponsor of the day is Brett. I know him. I've bought some of his books before, so we'll check it out, and then we will say goodbye.
Welcome to Based on a True Story, Volume 6, Tales of the Underworld, where true crime collides with the furry, funny, and fierce world of the Dust Bunny Mafia. This brand new 32-page comic reimagines real mafia legends, Mad Dog Cole, John Gotti, and more, through the eyes of our animal mobsters. Think The Godfather meets Looney Tunes, packed with action, humor, and full-color storytelling.
All right, so thank you everyone for tuning in. Next week, we'll be right back here at our normal time, normal place, talking about Kate Bush, The Kick Inside. And once again, thank you to Mr. Gnome for giving us your time. We appreciate it, and we will see you all next week.
On the tube and feel the vibe. Every show you crave right here live. Heroes and villains clash in the night. Madness Comic Network sets it right. Scroll through the list, find what you need. Epic battles and fast-paced speed. From capes to cosmic space delight. Tune in and watch your favorites ignite. On Facebook, share the thrill so grand. On X, the buzz across the land. Madness Comic Network all around. In every episode, joy is found. Uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comics sets the groove. Click that button and subscribe. Catch the wave and ride the tide. Join the fun, join the craze. Madness Comic brightens days. Hey! New uploads, they never end. Superheroes and their friends. Catch every twist and every turn. Madness Comic, you will yearn. Stay up to date with every twist. Madness Comic, don't miss a gist. From laughter to tears, every mood. Madness Comic sets the groove. Click that button